All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and it's been kind of a slow week for me. I don't know about you. I hope you're doing all right though. Today, I want to talk a little bit about some macro, just a little bit. I've got some really interesting Bitcoin stuff to show you, and then I want to make a couple of things clear about the charts. I know I do show all my positions. I call them out ahead of time, but still a few people have been reaching out to me and saying they can't really tell when I'm long and when I'm not. So we'll go through that, just make sure we're all clear. And then we're also at some critical levels. So the charts could bounce today or tomorrow, and then that would be really bullish as far as I could tell. But also we have to be open to some pullbacks. We have to be open and aware of losing a few levels. So I want to show you that as well. So in the meantime, sit back, relax, hit that like button, and let's get into this. The Fed have come out and they've been talking tough. They're saying that they might need to raise rates above 5% and then hold them there for a while. So is that going to happen? Isn't it? Currently, it's at around 60% probability of a pause of the current target rate, which is 475 to 500 basis points, be the terminal rate. So despite this tough talk from the Fed, there's only really currently a 40% chance that we see another 25 basis point hike. You'll notice there's no 50s on the table whatsoever. There's also no cuts on the table for this current meeting. I expect as we get closer, these probabilities will shift much more in one direction or the other than this current 60-40 split. But as I've been saying for a while, and as per my melt-up chart, we are expecting to see the markets look forward. We're expecting to see the markets front run a pivot to a pause in rate hikes. It's important to define it. We're not talking about a pivot to cutting rates. We're talking about a pivot from hiking rates to pausing rates. And the Fed pivot hopium is currently getting louder and louder by the day. Bad economic data is only adding fuel to this rally. And again, we're at some critical levels in the charts, so I'll show you that in just a moment. Here's the ISM, okay? ISM manufacturing PMI, as you can see, below 50. So this is indicative of economic contraction. If we're above 50, that's indicative of economic expansion. As of Wednesday next week, April the 12th, we have the CPI data for the US coming out. So it'll be really, really important to see whether or not that CPI is above or below the prior month's readout. If the CPI is fair and just, then it should certainly be lower than the prior month. However, given the way they like to manipulate the data, given the way they probably like to continue to talk tough and hide the fact that they over tightened and blew up banks, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see a slightly hot print coming out of Wednesday's readout. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Over in the Bitcoin world, Bitcoin doesn't care, and neither does Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor has used MicroStrategy to buy an additional 1,045 Bitcoin, so they now hold 140,000 Bitcoin in total. They only need $29,800 Bitcoin to see them break even on their investment. Super interesting piece of news here, because this is the Bitcoin white paper, which has been hidden in every single Apple computer running Mac OS, Catalina, or newer. So this has just been discovered. It's been there for a while. You can go and check this out if you have a Mac. You can go and do some digging. And inside, as you can see, you can follow this sort of. I think this is wrong. There's one down here. Someone corrected it. So you can stick this in your command prompt for your MacBook, and essentially by clicking around a bit, you can find this thing called SimpleDoc, and SimpleDoc is the Bitcoin white paper. So this has been hidden in all of the devices. And I don't know what the implications of this are, but it's there nonetheless, and that's pretty cool. Something else I thought was pretty cool is this is one of the world's most famous guitar manufacturers, and they've released a guitar as a tribute to Bitcoin. So you can see that here. Looks pretty nice, and in the headstock as well. The entirety of crypto Twitter seems to be short and expecting lower Bitcoin here. So very few are actually bullish. I expect a lot of salt over the next couple of days as we full send. So here's what Kush is looking at. He says, this is your path should you choose to accept it. Straight to all-time highs by summer. Is this on the table? This would be completely in line with my melt-up thesis for the stock market. I'm going to jump straight into Bitcoin here. So here's Bitcoin, right? I've been talking about this for a while. We are currently at the 6th. I think we get a half-cycle low due around the 9th, and then we rocket out of here. So we'll see if that turns out to be true or not. Ethereum has just broken to the upside, now working on a back test. So is this going to resume or is this going to roll over? That is to be determined, of course. And whilst we're here on Ethereum, let me use this as an opportunity to make it clear how you can tell whether I'm long or short or neutral any particular market instrument. The first thing to note is before I entered this trade, I was talking about my thesis for the trade. In this particular instance, for days to weeks, I was saying if we break above this blue box here, this big blue box, if we break above that, then that will be a long from me. So I was calling this out, and then we get to that point in time where it breaks out and I say, okay, I've seen enough, I'm going long. So I update you. Now the way I do it to try to illustrate this as clear as possible is the edge here. You see the edge of this long position? That's the day in which I took the position. So you can always figure out what date it is by finding the left-hand side, the left edge of the long position or the short position, and that will be the date I entered it. My stop is down here. This is my real stop, okay? I always use accurate stops. I don't move these around or try to make it look like I've jumbled my stop around or anything. The stop that I take the position on is the stop. I do not modify the stop under any circumstances. I suppose I reserve the right to, but I would always tell you, for the most part, that's really bad practice. So the investment thesis, the trade thesis, was a break above this with a stop here. So halfway through the trade, unless I'm going to move the stop up to de-risk and to lock in profit, why would I be touching the stop, right? If this is the thesis going into the trade, then that's the thesis that has to remain. So similarly on XRP, I was talking about a break above this red horizontal line being the trigger for my long. And then sure enough, we break it on this day here, as you can see. I add the long. I've been calling this out for weeks in advance, so you should already know I'm going to do it before I do it. Then once we get that candle cross, you should be thinking, oh, Camel told me he would go long there. And sure enough, I have. And you can see at the hard left edge here, this is my long position. This is my stop loss, which if you go back and check all the other videos, none of this has changed. I haven't wiggled the stop up and down or anything like that. That's the stop. That's where my stop is. And the only thing I'm likely to do with the stop is move it up or cut the trade entirely. As I've been telling you, if we get some kind of distribution pattern, I'll be looking to sell a trend line breakdown, as I keep saying. I've also been saying that I want to give this trade enough room to do something like this if it can do it. So I don't know if it can or not, but for now, we're long and strong. That's XRP. And I hope that clears up the positioning. I have no actual position on the dollar, and you can see that because there's no long position. Sometimes you might see me lining a trade up. You might see me do something like this, where I'll set a trade up to the side, but you can see the price is not in front of that. So this is just me telling you, if we break out, I might go long here and it will look something like this. But again, whenever I take a trade, I always let you know ahead of time. I always let you know well in advance. And I always post a video on the day to say I am officially long. Okay, so, I hope that clears that up for those of you that are wondering. Here's the dollar. Continues to be breaking down, doesn't it? So some level of chop, maybe even a false breakout. Who cares? Ultimately, I think it's going down to the 90s. The yields look heavy, don't they? The yields look to me like they're telling the Fed's done hiking, and that we're kind of seeing priced in at the moment, aren't we? 60-40, not massively one-sided, but the bond market is telling us that. The current probability is 60% is telling us that. So of course we can get a bounce on a rip, but we haven't had that yet. So happy days. Over in the stock market, the S&P looks healthy to me. So first warning sign for me would be a losing or a breaking down of this yellow upward sloping trend line, but that is quite steep. As long as we're above the red one, then I'm happy to remain long. The Nasdaq, perfect retest and currently holding the prior high from here, denoted by this yellow horizontal. So I definitely want to see that hold. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to do some sort of wick and then reversal and carry on like this. But a couple of daily closes below this line, and that is inherently kind of bearish because we need this thing to continue to set higher highs and higher lows. So we'll see how this goes. For now, it's above. I'm happy with that. Dow looks great, so this is going to be a big level up here. So we'll see how it goes, but for now, undeniably completing a repair, working on higher numbers. We'll see how that goes, like I said. Notice how the Russell, here's another example as well, by the way. If you've been watching the channel, and I recommend you watch it every day, of course, every day, or nearly every day at least, I've been talking about get a breakout of this downward sloping blue resistance line, and you'll see me add along for the Russell. And I've been talking about this and saying I'm not interested until it breaks out. Well, it still hasn't broken out, as you can see. This is floating here because I want to take the long on a breakout, but it just hasn't given me the trade signal yet. So it would look something like this if it were to break out from down here. But like I say, it's floating here. Haven't taken the position. When I do, I will add this. The hard left edge of this will be the day that I bought the breakout. And so there you go. So expect me to tell you I go long if we break out of here. But we haven't done that yet, so no position for me on the Russell. Similar story for the FTSE 100, isn't it? So waiting to see if we can get a breakout here. If so, that can be a long, as denoted by my long position here. Otherwise, if we're going to roll over from here, then I'm not really interested until it can break out. So can it, can't it? I don't know. I don't care. We'll just see how it goes. VIX, still kind of doing what I thought it would. So as you can see, still sub 20. Still looking for lower numbers in my opinion. And that, of course, should be conducive to further upside in the stock market. Tesla got stopped out, so that's fine. Like it's short and sweet. Don't want to be in that trade forever and not making any profit. So that's how I like it. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. Straight to the point. So got my margin back and we move on to the next one. Apple continues to look good, doesn't it? So Apple's still flying, happy days. No real problem here from Coinbase. Is still kind of sideways, and you can see MicroStrategy making its way up here. So a little bit of a pullback into that half cycle low for Bitcoin perhaps, and then we can smash through. Riot, not much more to say apart from long and strong continue to push. Marathon continues to go sideways as well. But I think if Bitcoin can find that cycle low, as I've been saying, then as Bitcoin comes out of that cycle low, likely in the weekend, then what we will see is all of these start to do very well. Lastly, gold, if you're in here, congratulations. If you're not, then I'm waiting for an all-time high break or a nice big rejection. So we'll see which one of those comes first. Like I've got this position lined up here, as you can see. So get an all-time high break and we're targeting massive, massive, massive numbers. Silver, we've got to start a position, as you can see here. So breakout, retest, looking for that resumption. Can it, can't it? I don't know. But once we can get to the top of this range, probably after gold breaks the all-time high range, if it's going to do that, then we can add another position and look for some explosive move like this to unfold. We got a couple of minor positions as well, as you can see here, so just got to leave them and see what they can do, see if they can perform or not. So we're targeting much higher numbers for the miners, but obviously they're not going to start to fly until gold can break out, if it can break out. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I hope that clears all of that up. I hope you can sort of see what I'm doing. I hope it makes sense. If you are not a regular viewer, if you don't watch every single day, then it probably is kind of hard to see where I get these positions and ideas from. So I do recommend watching every day. But by watching every day, you'll be able to see exactly what I do. You get loads and loads and loads of heads up, loads of warning. So as long as you're watching every day, this should all make sense. Anyway, I hope you found value here today. I hope you found some of the Bitcoin stuff quite interesting. If you've got a Mac, go and check that out. Go and see if you can find that hidden white paper. If you made it this far, thank you. And comment something funny like waffle. And in the meantime, enjoy your week. Seems to be a bit of a slow one, but let's make sure we can hold these levels in the stock market and then look forward to the weekend. In the meantime, take care from me. I hope you're doing well in life. All the best. Cheers. Bye.